Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tiki Taka podcast, episode number 94. I'm your host, Peter, today joined by Cynthia,
Hi, everybody.
Patrick,
Hello, guys.
Stephen,
Hey, how you doing, guys?
and Bruno.
Hey, hey, hey.
I was about
Yo,
to
yo,
say,
yo.
you were very
Wait.
Shut up. You're an ass. No, sorry, give it dick. Ay. All right. Well, we got a big show. Not really. I mean, we got three decent games to get to. We'll start with Benfica because we'll go on chronological order. So Benfica played first this week. They beat Estoril 2 goals to 1. Very narrow win. I had predicted 1-0 last week, so 2-1 was the score one, pretty close. Anyway, let me give you the Benfica lineup first. So Bruno Varela was in goal, Andre Almeida, Ruben Dias, Jardel, and Alex Grimaldo across the back, Feza, Zivko, and Pizzi in the midfield, Rafa, Servi, and Jimenez up front. Cynthia, do you want to start this one or?
No, you're starting it.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Slacker.
No, that's fine. This game was really weird because I felt that we had a bad game, but we still had a fair amount of chances that we should have definitely put away. This would be an easy 5-0 win had we put in the chances away that we should have had. We had, one controversial call where I believe it's a penalty on Jimenez quite early on. It would also be a sending off. But anyway, besides that, Estoril never really pressed Benfica in the first half. We were just more attacking and we played a better game. Thought Zivkovic was really impressive. Everyone else was kind of meh, but it worked out for a 1-0, and we should have gotten more goals. But the second half was totally different. Once again, it feels like we fell asleep in the second half. Everybody seems to blame Rui Vitória. I mean, I'm not really sure if you, but whatever. This says the point. But Studio came out really strong. They created a bunch of opportunities. They scored a goal that was, in my opinion, rightfully ruled offside. But they kept on pressing, ended up getting the equalizer where I felt that Andre Almeida has 90% of the blame on that one. He lets the guy get behind him from behind, and then he gets in front of Andre Almeida and gets the goal. I don't think Bruno Varela could have done much about it. It's 1-1. From then on, it's more hard by Benfica, not much of very good football. So they'll get a couple of chances they should have taken it. It would have made it very difficult for us to tie the game, even if they went ahead, which they deserved to at one point. But it is what it is. Benfica got the win. Vitória got criticized by his substitutions. This time they worked out just fine. Savio came on for Servi, which I felt was definitely the right call. And we ended up winning this game thanks to Savio scoring the winner. It wasn't a pretty game, but it should have been a game that we should have put away in the first half by more than 2 goals, I would say. Cynthia.
Sorry, I just had a Rui up in my face. So for me, I'm still angry at the Porto game. And so I know on Twitter a few of our buddies are feeling the same. And so going into this game, we expected a better turnout. For whatever reason, it just feels like everyone is, I don't know, fatigued. And it's bullshit at this point because we didn't go into the extra TASA games. We didn't go into the extra Europa or Champions League games. So what is going on? So angry into the first because of the Porto result still. What happens at halftime? Is RV not talking to them? Is he talking to them? What is going on? Like, we need a hidden camera in there or something, because whatever's happening at halftime is not helping anybody. They're all coming out and they're all just, I don't know, like drained after the half. It doesn't make sense. And I mean, if you're a professional footballer, you're supposed to be able to handle doing 45-minute halves and having the break in the middle. So what is going on? Unless someone is drugging them. And in that case, I bet you it's Porto. But anyways,
PC can't get his sleep because of the baby, or either
Well,
that or
because
he's on
everybody's
crack.
like,
Then he's on crack again.
exactly. But what if somebody's like drugging their water source or something? And because I'm saying it's Porto because they like to say that we're polvo and everything. Well, maybe they got insiders and it's not okay. um, but like it doesn't make any sense. Like you said, Almeida had a bad game, but I mean, he's been so on that I'm not going to be mad at him for one game. And Varela continues to just give me heart attacks, even though like I'm rooting for him because that's who we have in the net, and I don't want to be negative, but like, come on, at this point, I want to go in the damn net. You know what I mean? I'm like, just shave my head if you need to say that I'm a boy and put me in there. I don't care. Like, this guy is not doing his damn job. And it's just, it's killing me. And I don't like watching them like that. And then obviously, we wait for the late finisher, and then that's when all the comments come from all of our rivals and our nemesis, right? So I'm like, God damn it! So I didn't even want to watch the game, to be honest, and still mad at the Porto result. You know what I mean? So what do we got to hold on to? Yeah, we won 2-1, but it was not like it was one of the ugliest wins I think we've had. And
But the one thing that that leaves me kind of thinking is that
mhm.
even though it was a terrible game, we still had so many chances that I'm like, why didn't we put this away? Because that game would have been over 25 minutes in, to be honest.
Because it's Rafa
So,
and whatever he shoots misses. I don't understand. What
dude,
are they doing? He needs to practice with Varela and he needs to shoot in the net and Varela needs to make saves. They need to practice this because both of them suck at what they're doing right now. And I don't understand. And I want to like Rafa. We paid a pretty big sum for him. You know what I mean? So what is going on?
I don't know. And the other thing that I don't fully blame Rafa is just because at
He doesn't
least
get enough
he's the
playing time.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was the one that was creating set opportunities, right? He's not good at finishing, but no one else was there to make those opportunities happen either. Because that was part of his job. He wasn't finishing the plays, but he was making them while no one else was. So that's why I
Yeah.
also don't
Yeah.
fully blame him, right? Because my dad's like, "Oh, these 11 players." Well, I only see two playing, which was Zivkovic and Rafa. So it's
Yeah,
hard
like
to.
there's no support. It doesn't make sense. And this is what I'm saying. If it's fatigue, freaking suck it up, Buttercup. You make more money than any of us watching and like any of us who are like running pods or any of these analysts. You make more money to do these things. So do it. I don't see Ronaldo doing that. And yeah, he makes a bit more money than everybody. But you know what? Friggin' do it. It's
Yeah.
annoying. Yeah. I know not everybody's Ronaldo. I don't want to hear that. Don't at me.
No, no. I think people know. I think they know what you meant.
You know what I mean? Well, not
Yeah.
everybody can play at Ronaldo's level. Well, tell that to Messi. No,
No,
now
let's
you're going
not
to
get
add me.
into
I
that
don't want
again.
to. I'm turning off my Twitter. I'm turning it off.
You're like, I'm deactivating for the day
It's
just so
gone.
people don't ask me.
It's gone.
All right. Well, let's hear it from Patrick first, and then we'll go to the producers. Patrick, what did you think about this Studio Benfica game?
Decent game to watch. Obviously Benfica started best, which coming from a defeat against Porto is obviously ideal. For Benfica to start the way they did, they got the early goal through Rafa, which was also a good play from Zivkovic, who we've mentioned a few times on the pod is a player who's become quite important to Benfica and the way they attack. So you got that bit out of the way, and Benfica always looked like the better side in the first half. Perhaps you lot touched upon Rui Vitória, and perhaps what he would have been saying to his team, it's like keep up the intensity, let's keep it going. But in terms of what changed in the game, is probably Estoril, because obviously Estoril are in a very delicate situation right now down the bottom, and perhaps from their end they would have had a more inspiring team talk that would have been able to tip the balance, and I think that's what Benfica felt in the second half. Estoril were more aggressive, more up for it, and they got stuff going for themselves. They obviously had that situation with the goal that was ruled out for, I think it was Orlando that put it away, which is one of those things that it's really tight to say whether it was or wasn't offside. Obviously, from the angle that we see, it looks like his head or his upper body may be offside. But if we actually have a camera that's aligned perfectly, and obviously certain stadiums in the Portuguese league don't have the facilities to provide that. But if we have a camera that's correctly aligned to where Alano happens to be, perhaps that offside onside situation looks a bit different. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that it didn't have any effect on the game anyway, because it was 1-0 to Benfica, and then a few moments later, Estoril happened to equalise themselves anyway. So it's something that you can, on this occasion, you can scribble over. And then there was also another good chance that Estoril could have made it 2-1 through Evangelista, who took a strike. It took a bit of a deflection of Robin Dias, hit the post. So Estoril can feel a bit unlucky at what happened there, obviously. But Benfica had their chances as well. Rafa went through on goal on more than one occasion. He couldn't find the back of the net, which sometimes happens. He caught a lot of the chances on his left foot and a few snapshots as well. So not ideal for him, who isn't the greatest of finishers anyway. But ideally, Benfica would have been hoping to tuck one of those away and see out the game in a more comfortable manner. But you get your goal in the end, which comes in the 92nd minute through Salvio, which was it was a good goal, glancing header. And I'm just looking at the situation, and obviously the games are ticking down. There's 3 games left, and Benfica are right in it. Obviously, I haven't been following the situation on Benfica's end on social media and stuff, but it's surprising to hear that the mood is still somewhat deflated, because I think
It's bitter.
For example, when you get a goal like that, and your team hasn't played as well as they should have. Usually, when you get a goal like that and you win the game, even though, as I said, you didn't play as well as you could have, that makes the situation a lot sweeter, and it can really do wonders for your morale. So, given that that's happened, and I see the reaction I hear the reaction that you two have relayed to us, I find it quite surprising that Benfica fans aren't right up for the end of the season as they should be. But it is what it is, and we'll see come the end of the season what happens. But that's all I've got to say, really.
I was more hyped than most fans, and even the guys in the stadium. That was kind of ridiculous. There was little to no atmosphere. I don't understand, because Benfica never really, they had times where they, see if I can explain myself correctly. We had spells where we played bad football, but it wasn't like people are complaining the way that they are now. I mean, we are only 2 points behind. It's literally a Porto loss or 2 draws, which looking at Porto's schedule isn't the hardest thing to happen. I mean, they play away at the Madeira, where I honestly think they're going to win quite comfortably, but Bruno thinks they're going to struggle. They have Feirense, who are 17th place in the table, so they're going to have a good game against Porto. It's like almost mandatory. And they also play away at Guimarães, which is never really easy. So I don't understand why these fans are going, they're not up for it. And I don't understand, like, until you're mathematically in it, you should support your team all the way to the end, whether they're playing good football or not.
Yeah.
And we had bad games. For example, 2 years ago against Académica, we played like dog shit in that game. We won in the 90-something minute, and I didn't see people, that upset that we won a game, because some people were upset that we actually won, which I find ridiculous. Before Bruno, you go on, or Steven, I don't know which one of you wants to start. I want to say that at the time when that was the offside, I told my dad that I could see the VAR not giving it an offside because of the ruling on the field at the time. So, I'm just wanted to let you guys know that. Anyway, Bruno, do you want to let Steve go first, or
Steve can go first.
All right, so Steven, what did you think about this Real Benfica game?
As far as the still Benfica game, I thought Benfica had their chances. Obviously, they would want to have scored more goals. Um, Still was dangerous for a small amount of time in the second half. I think that shot where it deflected off the defender and hit the post when the score was 2-1, I believe. I think that could have changed the game a little bit and could have helped the Steel. As far as everything else, Benfica played well. Rafa, I think he played very well. He had multiple chances. He didn't finish as best as he could. So I think they just squandered some chances based on poor finishing. Got into good positions at certain times in the game. And yeah, at certain times they were a little bit sloppy and not the way you would want them to play, but they still got a just result and still didn't have much to do with changing that.
All right. Well, Bruno.
Well, I mean, in this one, I think I think it was actually a pretty even game. Benfica had the better first half. It looked like Studio struggled a lot trying to get their game going, and then once they settled down at the half, they came out a lot better. Now it did help that Benfica scored early. It definitely seemed like they settled down once they scored early, and then they had plenty of chances to put the game away throughout the match. But you could definitely tell that Benfica is suffering from the mental aspect of what happened a week ago. Every time that Studio attacked, Benfica was very shaky in the back. And I think that going forward, they're kind of lucky that the only team that they're going to be playing for the rest of the season is Sporting. Other than that, I think they're going to be, against Tondela and Moreirense. That's just, those are wins. I do want to get your opinion on the so-called, the potential penalty, because we have to look back at your criteria last week, how you cried about a potential penalty against Porto. So I want to hear what your criteria is for this week.
Easy.
Because this week,
easy. The one with Feza, they're right next to each other. Feza does not push the guy with his left arm. Unlike Ricardo, who pushes Zivkovic. That's the only difference. One pushes, the other one doesn't.
There's no push on Ricardo. And if you're going to say this one, you can see how Feza reaches over the shoulder of the Studio player and impedes him from getting to the ball. So that could be called obstruction.
On real time, I thought it was a penalty. After the replay, I didn't think so. If that helps.
And as for the offside call, on one angle it looks like he's off by a head, and then there's others that they're saying that he's onside.
My only doubt is Andre Almeida's foot. I don't think we really get to see Almeida's foot on that play.
Well, what we're going to find out tonight on Tempo Extra by Ruiz Santos is he's going to do a 3D image of the play, and we're going to see exactly if he's offside or not.
Jesus Christ, 3D imaging. Could they just get some GoPros up in these stadiums that don't have this shit? Like, this is ridiculous.
They just needed a camera from the other side. If they had a camera angle from the other side, we would be able to see Andre Almeida's foot and the players, the Studio's players' position. I do think it's offside, but he leaves doubt because you can barely see Almeida's foot. And we kind of have to guess where it is.
Remember what I've been telling you guys. Remember,
that we're liars?
No. Well, other than that, and you're not a liar, Cynthia, but there are other people on the panel that are liars.
He's looking at you, Peter.
I didn't say names, but if you're going to throw it out there. But in all seriousness, if you look at what's going on with the Portuguese league, by rules, they're supposed to have, I think the minimum is 8 cameras in every stadium.
Yes.
And there as most 5 in some stadiums. So based on the rules, they're already breaking them because you're supposed to have 8 and not 5. And I think this is one of these things that I think the league. I saw the coach from Stubble yesterday complaining about not particularly the game against Porto, but he said that they're the only team in the league that has no points against with the benefit of the doubt, and they have plenty of points against them with benefit of the doubt. So, in a team like Stubble, if the plays that he's talking about is actually true, you're looking at a team that's possibly in the mid table instead of fighting for relegation with
I mean, I
3 games to play.
I have to agree with Jose because I don't know if you I don't know if you noticed, but most of the VAR cases
Oh, they ruined it.
are actually studio games. There's a lot of studio games where they always seem to get the wrong end of the stick. So I do agree with him on that one. But what do you think about the Jimenez play? The one where he gets busted open. What do you think? Is that a penalty, Bruno?
I did not catch the first half because I was coaching, so I did not really catch the first half. I only caught start of the second half. Really,
All right.
I may have missed the initial minutes of the first half. I mean, just the initial minutes of the start of the second half. I honestly did not watch it. I saw the highlights, but it went so fast I didn't really. I mean,
All right.
they say
Even the jogo thing, everybody agreed that it was a penalty and a red card, which it is because if we compare it to the Yebda play, which even you can kind of question if Yebda was actually trying to hit Bastos. Well, on this one, the dude clearly looks at Jimenez and sees that he's there, and he puts his arm out and he hits him with the elbow. So
I,
that was pretty
I'm not
clear.
going to sit here and I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to say that it's not. I'm going to say I don't know.
Mhm.
I remember something I saw. I saw it. It is similar. Um, but there was also a potential penalty against Benfica where the guy gets pushed in the back when he was trying to head the ball. But again, those are what you consider soft penalties. Um, on the Sturil one, I'm talking
Yeah,
specifically on the
yeah.
Sturil one. Um, that's the one that I would say that's a little dubious. Other than that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they called it. That's the God honest truth.
Yeah. Just before we move on, Patrick, did you see the play? I just want to know if you think it's a penalty on the
Yeah, yeah,
Jimenez.
yeah. I'd give it a penalty again. It might depend on the referee's criteria, what he measures as a penalty or not. But to me, it's a penalty. Especially if you put it up against the best last one that you got against Bulnish. The player, obviously, Jimenez comes off bleeding, so there's no question there as to whether he got hit or not. So I don't know whether they could have utilised the VAR to help out or clarify things there. But yeah, definitely a penalty. I think it's one of those where if it happens anywhere else on the pitch, then it's certainly a foul. So why not inside the area?
All right. We can move on to Sporting then, unless anyone has anything else to add to this Benfica game.
Didn't Porto play before?
No, Porto played
Oh yeah, they
after.
played after, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they played just yesterday.
They played Monday.
Yeah.
Even though you guys played on the same Wednesday, you play Sunday and then they played Monday.
I'm used to Europa League life and being last.
All right.
Yes, Patrick.
You're on to your game, Patrick.
Okay then. So for this one against Boavista Sporting, with almost their usual back line, Patricio in goal, Quintrão left back with Mathieu and Coates at the heart of defence. Rostovski came in again for the injured Pacini. Midfield three of Bataglia, Brian Ruiz and Bruno Fernandes. On the flanks again, Acuna and Gelson, and Bastos was up top for this one. Another good game, quite open in the early stages. Boavista aren't your usual like super defensive Portuguese side. They like to play a bit, and they tried to play a bit early on. But then obviously there was the penalty shout that the VAR gave for handball correctly, in my opinion. A lot of the commentators at the time were saying that it was harsh. But you know, when you're a defender and the arm comes out, you're asking all sorts of questions. And the referee gave the penalty. Dost, quite composed, in the manner he stepped up to it. He tucked it away. 1-0 Sporting, and I think from that moment onwards, Boavista, in the way that they wanted to play, and the way that they showed they could play in the first 10 minutes, they sort of lost their way a bit. And Sporting were on top for the rest of the half. You know, we pushed the game up right into their half. We recovered a lot of balls in midfield, and it was all us for a good period of time. We had the chances again through Dost with a good volley saved by Wagner. Wagner made another good save to deny Gelson. There was one or two openings / counter attacks that Sporting, with a bit of better decision making, a little bit more cutting edge, perhaps could have fashioned a few more chances and gone for the second. The second didn't come. Second half, again, Sporting were better than Boavista, certainly more dominant. But then I think there's a period around the 60th to 70th minute when Sporting, you know, they begin to switch off. And perhaps because obviously just a few days before, Sporting had gone the distance with Porto in the cup, perhaps a lot of those players began to feel that. So it really was you know, a moment to have you on the edge of your seat as a Sporting fan. You're perhaps wondering, you know, what can Boavista do from here onwards, and they certainly enjoyed a good amount of possession in the latter stages. Sporting had their chances only through counter attacks, which we didn't take. But you know, by the end of it, there was nothing in terms of creativity that Boavista could point towards Sporting. Thankfully, for us, we nailed the 1-0 victory and keep it moving as far as our season is concerned. And that's that.
All right. Well, the only thing I want to say about this game, I think I'm going to be pretty quick, was that Sporting started off strong. I think that the penalty did not need VAR in any way, shape, or form. I think it's so clear that, you know, you should have called it a penalty, basically. That's what I'm saying. But other than that, I mean, it was exactly what you said. Sporting also started off a bit strong in the second half, but they lost their legs. And Boavista dominated pretty much the final 20 minutes, I would say. But they never really managed to, you know, score some of the opportunities they had made, which, you know, Sporting, you know, ended up winning the game. I wouldn't say comfortably, but they didn't sweat too much either. Cynthia, you want to weigh in on this game?
I just wanted to say for the penalty, that defender, like if you actually watch him leading up to that handball, that's how he stands. And I just think he's an idiot. Like his coach needs to tell him, don't have your arms out like a starfish. You're not the goalie. What are you doing? Because like I'm watching it, I'm like, this guy's arms, like he's practically waving them. And then eventually, you know, the guy kicks the ball and surprise, it hits an arm. I'm like, duh. So, I mean, that guy, just useless.
All right. Well, that was a quick assessment of.
Well, come on. Like, that was the biggest thing. And I'm like, this guy, like, again, I'm not a football player. I'm not one of these coaches in Liga NOS, but I've played soccer. I was defense. What are you doing? I was 8 years old when they told you put your damn hands down behind your back. Come on. Is this a joke? Apparently he didn't go to that class.
Well, you know, it is what it is. Players make mistakes, and that was one of them. Steven, do you want to add anything else to this Sporting Boavista game? Steven? Guess we gotta give him a minute here. Unless we move on to Bruno, which we could.
I'm right
No,
here.
okay,
Sorry.
there we go. All right. So, Steven, anything to add on this
Yeah.
Sporting versus game?
I think Sporting played well. They looked pretty good to me. They took a lot of shots on goal. The goalie was a little bit shaky with a lot of saves. That penalty was just, and I think Bostos played well as well. There was also some chance that he missed. He could have finished better. Overall, I don't think Bobista was really any match to Sporting. So I think Sporting dominated the game, and they could have easily have won that game 3-0.
All right. Bruno, what do you have to say about this game?
I think this is a game in which the Sporting fans are going to reflect back and they're going to wonder, why didn't we score more goals? They were clearly the better team. They dominated from start to finish. I'm just very confused as to how and why they just couldn't score the second goal. I mean, by the way, Boavista had 0 shots on goal in 90 plus minutes of the game, which is, for a team. And going back to what Cynthia said, and it's funny. Did you hear the press conference of their coach George Simon, Cynthia?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, the kids had a fit, so I was not paying attention at that point.
They they asked him about it.
Did
About
they?
what you were saying about the arms and stuff, and he claims that they bring an old referee in to teach them how they can do it, and he said the way they were taught by this referee was exactly that way. So,
Okay. Okay. Well,
exactly.
I know when I was pregnant, there were ladies who were like, sweetheart, I used to smoke when I was breastfeeding. I smoked while I was pregnant. Yeah, let's listen to the old generation because, new things come out. It doesn't mean anything. Okay.
Exactly. Like, I was very shocked to hear that he
That's so
said that.
stupid.
But, I mean, in reality, I'm not surprised either. I mean, obviously, he's just trying to justify it because he felt it was a weak penalty. Listen, like Peter said, and he said, well, it should have been called immediately. How did the linesman not even catch that?
Mhm.
What is the linesman doing? That's my question. What
Apparently,
are
he
you
was raised by that ref.
doing?
I just see this play where, like, it's a clear penalty, and the
Yeah.
only thing that makes me think is that the referee didn't think it was a penalty at the time, and I thought, he's going to check the images. I don't know if he's going to change the call on the field because it was so obvious to me that it was a penalty that I thought that the image wouldn't change his opinion because he thought that it wasn't intentional. So that's because that's the only explanation that I have because it was. I don't know. It's so clear because his arm is so wide. It's not even close to his body in
And
any
he
way,
does
shape, or
that
form.
the entire time he's in the box. Like, if you watch, I'm not lying to you, it was like 20 seconds of this guy flailing like an idiot. And I'm like, I played defense. However, when I did attack, I would make sure to hit people in the body. Like, because we played co-ed. So if there was a dude in front of me, I'm sorry, boys, but I would aim at his nuts. If he's going to get hurt, I can run around him and get the ball. And if they were being crazy with their hands, damn right I was going to hit their hands. Like, what is he doing?
So hold on a second. Let me get this straight. You're the one that's on the show, always complaining about Philippe, and look at the stuff that you're doing to these other people.
Philippe's my spirit animal. I don't want you to know.
Oh,
Flip's been pretty quiet, by the way.
I can't believe that I just heard that coming out of your mouth. You're complaining constantly, week after week, about this guy,
He's
and then you would just admit
aggressive.
that you were.
I don't just.
But you hitting
people in
guys in the
shin.
ball
I
sack is
use
not
the
aggressive.
ball.
So
Come
you
on, it's a
slapping
sport.
guys, you smacking guys in the ball sack is not
No.
aggressive
I
at
kick
all.
the ball at their balls. I don't.
Okay.
That's gross.
I thought you were doing like
No.
know.
No. There's no red velvet going on in my games. No.
Oh my
I
god.
see. Okay, all right. Thank you for the confirmation. I was getting a little worried.
All right. Well, all right. So were we done with the game now?
I don't know. Are you?
I'm sure I am.
You're getting all flustered there. You okay, Peter?
I'm all right. I'm perfectly fine. 100%. I don't know
You're
what
looking a
you're on
little
about.
sweaty over there.
Sweaty? Nah, I'm pretty chilled. I'm actually wearing a t-shirt, so I'm pretty. It's pretty warm out here. I'm
And
good.
the T-shirt that you're wearing, it doesn't have to happen to be the guy that's on the
No,
poster over your bed, is it?
and I don't have a poster over my bed, but that's fine. And
Oh,
no, it's
There
not.
all
you
right.
go.
Just checking.
It is not. It is not. All right. Well, let's move
And
on.
his nuts? What?
It is not.
Listen.
Not.
Oh,
Not. You are unbelievable, City. I can't believe you misheard that.
me. I
Anyway,
can't believe you said that.
I said
Very
not, not
scandalous
nuts.
on the
Just
show, I have to admit.
whatever. Anyway, Bruno, you gotta take us away with Porto, man.
Okay, so we have Iker Casillas in goal, Ricard Pereira, Felipe Marcano, and Tells on the back line. Herrera and Oliveira in the middle. Corona on the right, Brahimi on the left, Tiquinho Suarez, and Musa Marega up top.
Do you want to let
Well,
Steven go first, or
yeah, let Steven go first. I mean, the guy barely talks.
Hey, I'm here now. I'm good. I want to say that I made the prediction of 4-0. Obviously, this is not 4-0, but they did score 4-goal difference. All right, so it's 5-1. So I think I was pretty close with that.
Oh, you're the
Obviously,
closest. Everybody else said nothing.
pretty much. I'm pretty glad that Porto played with most of their best first-team players. So I'm glad that they had a good lineup out on the field. Obviously, we dominated this game in the first half where we scored 4 of the goals. I believe we had overall 13 shots on goal, 7 on target, I believe. 13 shots and then 7 on target. We had 66% of the possession. Stubal had a mere 9 shots, 3 on target. Obviously, they scored 1 goal. I wish we got a clean sheet, but it happened. And I think we had full control of the game, and I'm happy with the result. And I'm happy Marenga was able to get on the score sheet because he wasn't looking too confident. So I think that he got some confidence back scoring that goal, even though it wasn't the prettiest of goals. But I think that would help us in the long run for the rest of the games with them getting that confidence after this game.
all right? Well, Bruno, take it away, bro.
I mean, what more can you say? I mean, it was 15 minutes. I mean, after 15 minutes, it's 3-0. I mean, I don't think that Stubble had really much you can say. I mean, a lot of people are going to, a lot of Benfica fans are very upset at the performance of, I believe his name is Cristiano, in goal. I mean, the first one, I don't know. I think it was basically a lucky bounce. I don't think you could do much more as a goalkeeper because the ball was literally headed at his feet. And he just tried to save it any which way, and it just happened to just land at Marega's feet, and he scored the first one, and then the second one. The second one was a bicycle kick in the box. I mean, it went through his legs. It looks very bad, but then again, I mean, Cristiano hasn't really been the best goalkeeper, in my opinion, for Stubble. I've seen a couple of goals that he's given up throughout the course of the season, and it's you wonder, man, if he's the best goalkeeper that they have, I can't imagine who's behind him. So, as for the third goal, I mean, it was Brahimi breaking into the box. Porto played very good, a lot of good ball movement. Porto's definitely the way they came motivated into the game was to score as quickly as possible and score as many goals as possible. Interesting player that Stubble had was João Morales. He actually played in this game. I know a couple of weeks ago he wasn't even on the bench, and he's been their most utilized player and their second best goal scorer. And he finally comes back and he scores a goal, reducing the score. Second half, Porto just basically managed the game. I was a little surprised Sergio Conceição didn't pull Herrera, he didn't pull Marega, and he didn't pull probably Brahimi sooner, because I think it was like 70 minutes and it's about 20 minutes left, and Herrera was he could barely run. He was so tired. I think he was a guy that deserved to come off early. Now we got some time to rest. We have a big game this weekend against Maritimo, and hopefully the trend continues, which is score early and score often.
All right. Well, my damn cat decided to jump on top of my computer and muted my mic. I am not kidding. I pressed to unmute it, and then he pressed the space bar, and he muted the mic, and I was like, "Are you serious?" Anyway, I want to hear from Patrick now, and then me and Cynthia go last.
So a strong start again from Porto. They've had a few of those in recent weeks, which is always important when you play against particularly the smaller sides of the division. But in between that, there was obviously some goals at Stubble. Not to say that they were to blame for the goals that they conceded, but they are. There were a few goals that they sort of think, how did we concede this? First one, obviously, being the one Cristiano spills, and Marega obviously thanks that and taps in an early goal. Second one was a bit of a bizarre one with Marcano with providing an acrobatic finish. There was a deflection in there somewhere that took it through the legs of the goalie. And then obviously the third one, is pure mockery and coolness from Brahimi in the box to slot it where he did. Bit of hope restored through João Moral, and if Stubble can remain a bit tight and play their cards right, they might be able to cause Porto some problems with a 3-1 scoreline later on. But they weren't able to do that, and when you don't do that, you pay, because a team like Porto, when given the space to attack, they can be quite dangerous. And that's where Porto grabbed their fourth through Corona. Again, quite fortunate, took a deflection, which takes it away from Cristiano in between the sticks. But from then onwards, at 4-1 by half time especially, it's always quite difficult for a team like Stubble to recover. Second half, Porto again were better than Stubble, obviously, but not quite as free as they were in the first half. Obviously, fatigue begins to set in, much like Sporting, having already played that game in the cup, in the semi-finals of the cup. You soon start to feel that, especially with the way Porto like to play. So I think it was only natural that Porto were a little bit more muted in the second half. But they round it off with a pretty nice goal from Alex Stelj, who deserves a goal or two with how much he creates sometimes. I know a lot of his assists are also from corners, but they have to be on the plate, and he puts it there. So good goal for him, a big win for Porto. And we go another week. It's all tight at the top. We'll see what this week brings to the title race.
All right. Well, Cynthia, do you have anything else to add on to the game, to what the guys were saying?
The guys haven't analyzed it enough. I just wanted to point out that I thought poor Ivan had the ugliest bicycle kick I have ever seen. So good for him that he got a goal, but it was ugly.
It wasn't a bicycle kick. It was considered a tricycle kick because it was low.
There we go. With the training wheels still on. That's what that was. So the poor guy, and he looked like he hurt himself more than anything else on that landing. But otherwise, no, this was 5-1. I was watching, and like 15 minutes, and it's 3-0. And I'm like, if they score every 5 minutes, I don't want to watch this. I don't care if I have the pot or not. I don't want to watch this. It was brutal. But
well, I left after 3-0, so.
Oh, did
I wasn't gonna stick around to watch the rest of the game. It was useless.
You're such a hater. No, I watched the whole game. It's annoying, but I watched. I do
Anyway,
just want to say though,
yeah, go
the
ahead.
one thing that you guys are going on about is the fatigue. Sporting played Sunday. Porto had an extra day of rest, and they I thought they looked more fatigued than Sporting did, and they had an extra day to rest still.
They had to travel back to the north too. Um,
Wow,
I know,
traveling
I
in,
know,
please come on.
I know. Anyway, the only thing I want to say is that the game was finished in 15 minutes by three mistakes by Stubble. That killed off the game. I mean, especially when you're a smaller team and you make mistakes like that, the others are going to capitalize. And Porto won this game fairly easy. You know, um, I wondered if someone would say something else would have been, Benfica. But it is what it is. I don't want to say anything because I don't think that's the case. But a lot of mistakes. Anyway, Porto 78 points, right? Or is it 79?
79, I think.
79,
79. So
79, 77, and 74 and 71, I
74.
believe.
Yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty close race. Now that my cat's meowing everywhere, I don't know why. Anyway, gotta ignore them meowing for a little bit. Do you guys want to get off to the questions first? I guess.
Yeah, let's do the questions. Sounds good.
All right, we only have two of them anyway. So I know you
Well,
guys were
well,
discussing. I know you guys
but
were.
before you start,
Yeah.
hold on. Before you start, real quick about Stubble. I think in their next 3 weeks, they're going to be playing their direct adversaries to stay in the first division. So it's going to get
There's
extremely
four
tight
teams
down the stretch.
below them.
Well, Moreirense
Paços
is not
Ferreira
safe
and
yet.
Aves are below, and then Feirense and Estoril are at the bottom.
Yeah,
Oh, but you're
Feirense,
talking about like
Estoril.
14, 13, 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Third, like Moreirense is at 32, so they need 2 more points to clinch that they're going to remain.
Yeah.
Stubel's at 29 with Paços Ferreira, 28, Feirense 27, Estoril 26. But in the next 3 games, Stubel plays, and I just want to check the schedule real quick. They play Feirense next at home, which is huge game for them.
Yep.
And then they will go to Estoril, and then they end with Tondela. So Tondela is safe, but these next 2 weeks are going to be pivotal for Stubel.
We'll see what happens. There's a lot of teams in the fight. That's why I also have a little bit of hope on Feirense because the guys need the result, and it's like you said, Bruno. When it gets to this part of the season, everybody needs the points.
Everyone's a cornered animal. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the questions then. We have two of them, both from Josie. This one I know caused a bit of controversy when I said it before we went live, so I'm expecting different reactions. So first, I want to hear it from the Sportingista, and then I'll let Bruno talk because Bruno has a different opinion. Anyway, Josie asks if Gelson is ready to make the move outside of Portugal, or should he stay another year and work on some of his weaknesses? Now, Patrick, what do you think?
I say he is ready to make the jump to a top division. I think when you look at Gelson, you're looking at not only one of Sporting's best assets, but also one of the best players in the league. One of the best players that one of the best young players that Portugal has to offer, certainly. And he's around 22, going on 23 now. I think that's a good age to make the jump, and he's not the finished article, obviously. But as you go on, that's when you start to perfect your game. And I can see Gelson fitting in really well in a club like like Arsenal, for example, Liverpool. Bundesliga might suit him quite well. A club like Dortmund and whatnot. He's a player of real quality. He's great dribbling 1-on-1. And yeah, quite easily, I think he's a player who will be able to make the jump and in return get Sporting a good bit of cash. We'll see what he does at the World Cup. It's a stage for players like him to perhaps skip the queue and surprise a few within the hierarchy of a big national team like Portugal. And if he can do that, then his time might fully be this summer that he makes a jump. But I'm expecting him to move within the next season or two, starting next summer. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on that one. I certainly think he's ready for it.
So Josie posed the question. He's actually posting right now on the live chat. He was saying that since the cat was bothering Peter, he's got to feed the cat. And he's saying about Gelson that the passing and the crossing, maybe his decision making with the ball when it comes to his passes are good. And he's great with the ball and dribbling, but his passing has to be a bit better. And then, Bruno, you're up. Oh, sorry.
Who's
go
up?
ahead.
Wait, just before
Patrick can finish, and then you're up.
Just before we go to Bruno, I know a lot of people say that obviously about Gelson, but when I look at Gelson, I see like a throwback of a winger. A lot of the wingers nowadays, they play on the opposite flank, and they like to cut in on their favoured foot and look for the shot or perhaps a different kind of cross. They like to create more infield. Gelson's a real throwback. He's someone who he gets chalk on his boots and hits the byline and looks to affect the game that way. And because of that, he's a player that really, it's very difficult to play the way Gelson plays because you're always playing like you're on sprint all the time. So it can be quite difficult for a winger like that to make the correct decisions within the space that he has to think. It's not a problem that's exclusive to Gelson. I think a lot of the traditional wingers of world football, I think a lot of them have the same problem. So I don't consider it a fault. It's just a consequence of the style of play that he has attached to him. Yeah, sorry,
and that's
Bruno.
A great point too. Yeah, Bruno, you're up.
Well, I'll let Steven go first because he might also agree with one of you guys, or maybe he has a completely different opinion. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as Gelson moving on, I agree with Patrick. It is the right time to him moving on, and I'm not gonna lie, with the season he's had, I think he's looked good for a majority of the season, and it all depends on the World Cup as well. But I'm sure someone's gonna try to pick him up. I think Arsenal would probably be the destination for him, depending on who the new manager will be. So I think with his style of play, it'll fit with the players that Arsenal has right now up front, which is basically people that have a lot of pace and are able to go in within space to create chances. So I think Gelson would be good for that. So I think it's the right time for Gelson to move on. That way he can evolve as a player. And then, once that happens, if it works out with him for whatever team he goes to, I think that would help him in the long run as a player for Portugal.
Bruno.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think he's 100% ready yet. You look at the games in the Champions League, there were times that he wasn't so consistent. And I think I've always said this in the past. All these guys, especially the guys that are the age of Gelson, they think they're ready and they're not ready. They go to these clubs. They make Renato Sanchez is a perfect example. Have you heard from Renato Sanchez lately? No, the guy doesn't even play. And he's one of those guys that, he moved too soon. And I think that Gelson's how old now? 24?
22, I think.
Older than Renato.
Wow.
Right now, I always say that no guy should leave the Portuguese league before the age of 24 if you're not dominating. And there are games that he does not dominate. And I think that is where he needs to prove himself to eventually one day move on.
Bruno,
you look at all the young
when did Ronaldo leave?
Understood,
was he 24 when he left?
No, but hold on a second. You're talking about a completely different.
We're talking about Sir Alex Ferguson too.
All right. So then, what about Nani and Quaresma? When did they leave? Are you kidding me? Wait till they're 24 to leave?
Quaresma
I don't agree with Bruno, but
hold on. Quaresma left. He left at 19 years old, and then he came right back after one season
but
because
I think there,
he was
Bruno,
a
what you-
failure at Barcelona. Same thing with Simon. Simon left early, and then what happened? 1 year later, he's back in Portugal. And then there's like other guys that are big examples of that. I mean, Ronaldo's a different story because he's just
Yes.
he's a
I'm just
he's at
throwing
a
that out
completely
for
different
saying
level.
24. I'm like,
No, but
I gave you 3 examples: Quaresma, Simão, Renato Sanchez, but there are many,
All
many
right,
more.
Bernardo Silva, Gonçalo Guedes. What about
Bernardo Silva,
those?
what was he? When he first left Benfica, you don't even know
He
where he
played for
was. He was
Monaco.
at Monaco, and he was
He played at
okay,
Monaco.
but he wasn't a star though. He only became a star probably after his second or third season. So,
Bro, don't give me that. Hold on.
what do you mean?
No,
Don't give me
don't give
what
me that.
he
No,
wasn't.
no.
He wasn't a star. A star. I'm talking about a guy that dominated.
He was two. He played what 14, 15, and then 15, 16. So yeah, 3 seasons. I mean, the first year, the only one was more of the lone season where he only had 15 games, but even then he had 2 goals. In the next 2 seasons, he had 86 appearances and 22 goals. I mean, not even counting the assists. So I mean, the dude played a lot. I mean, he only had really 1 year to adapt, and then he straight up,
Okay, you look at up, but there's other guys. Have you heard from Miguel Veloso lately? Have you heard from Nani?
some of these
Those
guys
guys
have
at
bad
this point are
attitudes
not
too.
even. Yeah, they're not even
It's
that
different.
talented.
Miguel Veloso cannot be trained. You've seen him, right? When he played for but when he played for the national, the guy has a bad attitude for any coach to try and train him. That's brutal.
Okay,
So
but
Renat Sanch,
you're
I
just
feel
proving my
bad for that
point.
kid. Yeah,
But
but
you're
not
proving my
everybody.
point because when he was at Sporting, he was at least he did a good job. He was
All right.
pretty consistent.
Do you want me to debunk your thesis in
I
just
do. Go,
one
go,
player?
go.
All right. Well, how old was Nico Gaitan when he left Benfica?
And he's been a bust.
I think
Is
he
it
was
because
26.
it doesn't? No, he was about 28, 29.
And but hold on, I'll debunk.
He
Hold on,
and still is a very good player. One of the best in our
I'll
league.
debunk your theory, Peter.
How?
Peter, I'll debunk your. Okay, it's very simple because he's overrated. You have a ball on a record that blow him up. What do you mean, okay? What do you mean, okay? It's Renat Sanch, same
You
thing.
don't have to be
Golden
a
boy this,
Benfiquista.
golden boy
Some
that.
people were fantastic. Come on.
I mean, what about James then? Like James wasn't as successful in the beginning. Then he picked it up, and now he's.
What are you talking
back
about?
in the
So
form, but
he went to Monaco.
But he had a good year. Yeah.
He went to Monaco. He dominated, and then he left. He went to Real, and he went to Real. We're not talking about a completely different a mid-table team.
I just think that there's an even like 50-50 because for example, even if you look at the Barcelona team, you have Andre Gomes who has been a terrible player for them. Yet look at Nelson Smith. And Nelson Smith doesn't start every game, but he's a solid. He plays almost every single one of them, and he starts on a lot of them. So it just depends on the player. It depends on the team. It depends on the role he's going to have. It depends on everything. I don't think you can say, oh, it's too soon. I don't know. It depends on what system they put him in. Like Bruma was way too soon, but look at him. He went to Galatasaray. He picked himself up, and now he's playing for Red Bull. And a lot of people want him in the national team. It's just the system.
Hold on.
The system
Bruma,
also.
But you're talking about a Bruma that left early. He struggled. Remember, he got loaned out to Real Sociedad because he had no spot in Galatasaray, which is the Turkish league.
Yep.
Okay, so he struggled a while, and then he got his confidence up, and then he had injuries. He had this and that. This is a guy that went out too soon. So you're proving my point.
I think that it also is like who's surrounding them, their coaching, how they play, who they play with. Like there are times Ronaldo doesn't do anything. Are you going to blame Ronaldo or are you going to play who he's playing with?
Well, to me, a lot of it is systems. It depends on the player. It depends on the system that they're trying to do.
It depends on the coach. It depends on everything.
Like I'll give you an example.
I don't think
another
Renat
example.
fits that system that he went over to. But anyway,
he doesn't fit in any system because he's not.
He fit in Benfica. Shut up.
He's not that good. He's not that good. I've
You're
always
not
said
that
it.
good,
Whoa.
Bruno.
I've
You're
always said
just
it.
jealous we
Whoa.
didn't draft you anywhere.
Whoa.
No,
Who
he's
are
not
you
that
talking
good
about?
because
Whoa.
Renat Stench.
You're a
Because
joke.
and I'll give. What are you talking
Unbelievable.
about? The guy can't make a
Unbelievable,
10-yard
man.
pass.
The
The guy
guy,
can't make a 10-yard pass. Can't make a
look,
10-yard pass.
the dude that had a great Champions League, that completely had Vidal in his goddamn pocket, and you're telling me that he can't play football?
Obviously, he's proven it the
That's what
last
he's
2 years, right?
Look,
He's proven it
everything
the last 2 years,
it
Peter.
has to do everything with the system and where he is. I mean, I could make the same comparison moving into football, American football, and say, "Oh, look, everybody loves Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. We never seen him anywhere else." I would,
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Like, imagine that there's players, and it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that they work better in a certain system. Maybe Renato Sanches is actually one of those players that fits. For example, a Benfica system, but won't fit anyone else. It doesn't mean that he's a bad player. It just means that he's a system player. You
Do
know,
you remember Aymar? He came over to us late and everybody was talking trash about him, but he was fantastic for us.
Who's this?
Pablo
Aymar.
Aymar.
He's another one that yeah, in at Valencia he was a pretty good player, but he wasn't a great player. He's just a pretty good player.
Exactly.
But our league is not the strongest, and when you have less competitive players, you're going to shine. But I'll give you another example. Andres Silva, he went to the wrong team.
I
AC
told
Milan.
you, I told everybody that Andres Silva should have never left Porto to any team.
But
He's a different
that's a
case.
different circumstance.
He was never, ever, 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 ever ready to leave Porto because he didn't even dominate at Porto. He wasn't even that good at Porto. He wasn't even that good at Porto.
And hold on
And
a
I
second,
think
but
most
you're
Portuguese
proving
will
my
agree.
point. You're proving my point.
But no,
You're just proving my
Gelson,
point.
but Gelson has had a series of very good seasons. It's not half a season or even that Andres Silva actually had. I mean, the first 6 months in the A squad were awesome, and I'm not talking about that finish of the season before he actually went to the A squad. I'm talking about the beginning of the actual season. He had good 6 months. He was scoring, and then he disappeared. Andres Silva was nowhere near as good as people were trying to make him out to be. And I said, look, I'm not a big fan of his, but he should have never. He should have stayed at Porto. But you're talking about Gelson, who's a player that could consistently proves himself as the Sporting's best player, the most influential one, and he gets the assists, he gets goals. He's an all-round player. For example, he would fit very well in the Liverpool system because he knows how to defend, he knows how to attack, he can do everything. But like we are trying to compare things that we can't really compare because every player is different and every system is different. And André Silva, for example, never really dominated a Porto, while Gelson has done pretty much everything he could do at Sporting.
Josie is saying that the money was too good for Andre Silva to be turned down.
Well, no,
says,
that's where I was going with. I was going with he was forced to leave. It was basically Porto went up to him and said, hey, "Listen, buddy, we got an offer of X amount of money. You're going to be leaving right now to AC Milan, and there's nothing you can do about it. We're selling
here's
your
the
pass."
taxi to the airport. Bye.
Yeah, which I think
Same
that's
thing
something that teams should never do, and they did
But
that.
hold on. But
Benfica
when
did that too.
you're under FIFA fair play, you're forced to sell some players that you really wouldn't want to play or want to sell. Same thing with Ruben Diaz. I mean, come on, not Ruben Diaz.
Neves.
Ruben Neves. Ruben Neves.
Joke. You're joking me
What do
there,
you mean?
right?
What do you mean joking you? The guy's
Because
been the
Porto
best.
Porto could have kept him. They just didn't want
Kept
him.
him how? Kept him how, Peter?
They
Please
didn't
explain
want,
to
they
me.
didn't want him. They didn't want him in their squad because there was points where he barely played that season.
Peter, are you listening to what I just said?
Yeah,
Are you listening to what
Porto
he
did not
was
sell
forced to leave?
Porto
No,
did not
he was
sell
forced.
Ruben Neves. Porto sold Ruben Neves because they did not want Ruben Neves. They saw a good
No, they
profit
didn't.
in him with 16
No,
million, and they
they
said,
didn't.
"You go ahead and go."
They
No.
said that we're getting an offer of 16 million plus another whatever incentives. You're going right now.
And guess what?
They
It was a
didn't-
terrible deal.
It was a terrible deal. Looking back at it now, I mean, the guy's probably worth close to 40, 50 million.
Even at the time, every Portista that I know was
Upset
aggravated
about it?
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they all saw the talent in him, and he didn't play a Porto. And now he's going for 15 million. I think Porto made that move because A, they wanted the money, and B, they didn't want Ruben Neves enough to keep him. Because if you really wanted Ruben Neves, you could have said no to 1 year to say, look, he's staying another year, and he would be, worth the same amount of money. I don't think he would have, I think he would have been the same player that he is now at Wolves if he stayed at Porto. And I think Porto just didn't trust him enough to keep him around. That's how I feel about Ruben Neves.
Well, there's different things that we're gonna agree and disagree on some of what you just said, but Ruben Neves was a guy that they basically Porto just went up to him and said, "Listen, we got an offer from Wolves. You're going to be sold. Pack your bags. Thank you for everything you've done. You're a 18-year-old kid, and they're offering 16 something $million, and we still don't know how good you could really be. We're gonna take the chance of selling you right now. If you're a bust there, you're a bust there. We'll come back and get you at a much cheaper price." Obviously, that's not going to happen. That's a deal that Porto shot themselves in the foot. Andre Silva, don't be surprised he comes back on Porto on loan next year. That would not shock me because he's struggling so bad in AC Milan. But then
That's what they
again,
should have done in the first place, in my
how
opinion, if I was
how
AC
many
Milan.
how many Portuguese players are actually very successful in Italy? There's not many.
The problem with
Figo.
Portuguese players is that obviously a lot of them are represented by the
Jorge
same
Mendes.
man,
Jorge Min.
and this man is obviously he farms out to very specific clubs, and it goes back to what you guys were saying, which is the key for a player like Gelson in this case. The key for Gelson and any other talented player, because there is a ceiling that you hit in the Portuguese league. We must remember the Portuguese league. It's great for us because we all support a club, but it's not that great. And if a player wants to continue learning and continue progressing, and not waste a year or two, stagnating in the same kind of form or skill set, a player has to move on. I think Gelson is approaching that stage, but the key is finding the right club. Even if you look, since you brought up Ronaldo, even if you look at Ronaldo, Ronaldo struggled in his first 2 seasons at Man United.
Yeah, he did.
So much so that by the time he got Rooney sent off in the World Cup, there was even rumours that he was about to be shunted out to Juventus and a bunch of other Serie A clubs who were interested in him. The end was near for Ronaldo. Luckily, he was there with a good manager like Fergie, and this is what all the other Portuguese players have got to find. They've got to find a home, a club that truly wants that player, that specific player, in their system. I think Gelson can find that. Any Portuguese, a talented Portuguese player can find that. What you don't want is someone like, for example, André Gomes at Valencia and Barcelona. That's a bad move. And there are others dotted around like Renato Sanchez, André Silva. And Portugal will probably pay the price for that come the World Cup, because there's a lot of key players. We look at André Silva in particular, who's the only striker that Portugal have, unless you count Ronaldo. To have a player like that, not starting in the Serie A for AC Milan, it's quite problematic. Clubs and players themselves, or agents, power brokers, they've all got to, in Portugal in particular, they've got to start thinking about where am I taking this player, and is it beneficial for them, or is it just beneficial for finance and circulating money? That's the stage that we're at really in Portugal.
It's sad.
It's very true.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. So to quickly sum it up, who thinks that Gelson is ready for the move? Me, Cynthia,
I
Patrick.
think he is. Yep.
What about you, Steve?
I think he's ready for the move.
Okay, and the Bruno is against Gelson move.
Josie is against it. The one who posed the question is against it.
Okay, Josie's against it too. All right. That's all right. Anyway, moving on then to the next question, also by Josie. He asked, also Sporting versus Benfica, SCP in 29 home matches, 10 goals conceded all season, with 5 coming from European clubs. from European club play, 5 during league action. If Janos doesn't play, how worried are Benfica fans? He also said Astana scored 3 goals in Braga too. How worried are you, Cynthia, if Janos doesn't play?
I already told Josie, sometimes when you're having such a great time, all of a sudden you trip. So they're up for a trip. Hopefully, we're the ones who do it. And like you guys have said many, many times in the past, these classicals, these derbies, you guys have said that many times. The team that is not performing at its top bests the other team. So hopefully we have that to hold on to. But no, I do want Jonas back. I don't understand what's going on there. I see some crazy things going on with like saying that he's going to use NASA, just ridiculous shit, trying to fix his back and whatever. But we'll see. I want him to play, but I'm not too nervous. I mean, we still have another team. I'm more nervous with Varela, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Janos does a completely different job in these type of games than he does when he plays the smaller sides. I think people tend to overlook his play because he's a striker and he doesn't score against the big teams. Well, he does a lot of other things. He holds up the play. He's normally in crossing situations, mostly when Benfica have dangerous opportunities because he's the one trying to make the plays happen. I would like to have Janos play, but it would mostly be because I would like to play with a 4-4-2 because that was what I wanted to play against Porto. I think he would have fit the Porto team really well if we had played in a 4-4-2, but we're not going to play on a 4-4-2 with Jimenez and Seferovic, so it kind of is what it is. I would I would be I want to be but I want to be super worried. I mean, I would rather have him on the field, but if he's not on the field, then we got to find solutions. That's why we have a coach. Um, and I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I do just want to ask a random question to Patrick before we close out the pod, just because it's something that I want to get his thoughts on. And Patrick, so you watch Benfica, and every time Seferovic comes on, he gets slandered by not being in the right position or looking completely out of sync. I think that people are are mostly putting the blame on him. Do you think that he's to blame, or do you think that also Rui Vitória has some of the blame when, for example, he takes off Pizzi and puts in Seferovic and leaves the midfield wide open with no one else to play that cam role?
My thoughts on Seferovic are basically he's not a striker I particularly rate anyway. But it's even when you've got for example, there's a lot of managers that like to just think, right, I'm gonna take off a midfielder and I'm gonna put on another striker and another striker and I'm just gonna magic up a goal. Sometimes that doesn't really work. So it's not that isn't just for Seferovic, it's for any striker that comes on. Sometimes just because you put on a striker and you take off a creative midfielder or something like that doesn't mean that you're going to get anywhere closer to a goal. It's hard anyway sometimes for any substitute, even if it's like for like. It's hard for any substitute to come in and adapt yourself to the pace of a game, to the emotions that are flowing already around you. So I can share a bit of sympathy for Seferovic, who often comes off the bench. It's never easy, especially when you're almost exclusively a substitute. Seferovic doesn't start every week or every other week. He doesn't have that sort of rhythm and in-game chemistry with the other opponent. So I think it's natural for him, even if he was to find his feet eventually, even if he was capable of finding his feet, I think it's very natural for a player like that who doesn't have the same rhythm as like a Jimenez, for example, or a Jonas, obviously, who starts every game. It's normal for someone to come in like that and feel lost and sort of out of place, as you said. So, there's sympathy that I can throw his way, but generally, I think I've said it before. He's not a striker that I really like.
And I know that, but I was just, trying to get your point of view because I know that I personally like him, so I could be, a little bit biased towards him. It just feels that every time he gets thrown into the game, Benfica needs to win, and it's basically just like, hey, you're coming in, and I feel like fans are a bit too harsh on someone that doesn't really get the playing time, and then he only gets thrown in stressful situations, and then
it's never easy.
It just feels kind of dumb. And I've noticed it again this week, especially on the Sport TV guys. They kept on, oh, I don't know what Seferovic is doing on the field. He looks lost, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like they never really say, oh, but the coach also he puts him in stressful situations where he doesn't have the chemistry with the players and all that.
He's not entirely to blame. And from that point of view, obviously, when you factor in how hard it is for a player to jump off the bench and suddenly be good, it is an art to be a super sub. So obviously the blame has to be shared around the team and the technical staff. Sporting had a similar situation last year when we had a situation where we need a goal or two, and we brought on Andre from Corinthians and ex Santos, and obviously he never really found his feet as well. And even if I thought he was actually okay, he had a few bad misses along the way after. But when those things happen, you sort of attach it to the player's quality very quickly, and he's all of a sudden, a huge flop and out by winter or next summer. And that's generally how it goes. Really, it can be quite ruthless to play for a Portuguese club, especially when you have a team that, like managers, for example, all big three managers like their 11 and they make minimal changes to it on a game by game basis. So, it's tricky for any substitute to come in that situation.
All right. Well, does anybody else want to weigh in anything before we get to the predictions, or are we good to go to the predictions? All right. I assume the silence is a yes, so we'll move on to the predictions then. Let's start out with...
Wait.
Yeah, are you going to actually say something?
He's just picking on you, Vaila.
All right. Well, so let's start with Benfica then, because they play first again. They play against Tondela, so Benfica should go first. Cynthia, what are you thinking?
I hope it's a 2-0.
All right. 3-1 to me. Patrick, what do you say?
I think 4-0.
All right. I mean, Steven.
3-0.
All right, Brun.
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to these scores and I'm shocked that they're so low. You're playing against Pippa, for Christ's sake. He's going to play a high line. He's going to put 11 guys attacking, and they're going to lose 6-0.
Yeah, right. But you guys have like witchcraft against us.
We use witchcraft?
Yeah, you are.
Check your sources, lady.
You're the ones who came out and said how expensive they were, you big weirdo.
All right.
You gotta check your sources.
We gotta. What we gotta do is we gotta move on, and we gotta move on to Sporting. And I got no idea what Sporting's playing, to be honest with you.
Portimonense hosts Sporting on Saturday.
Yep. Not easy.
Not
easy.
Patrick, what do you say?
I will go for 4-2 to Sporting.
All right. Well, Steven.
2-0 for Sporting.
Cynthia.
I'm saying a 1-1 draw.
I don't know what to pick. Bro, do you want to go first so then I can decide what scoreline I'm going with?
1-3.
All right, so 3-1 to Sporting. All right. 2-1 to Sporting. Why not? Let's go with that. And then on the final game
Sunday,
from the Big Three.
Host Porto.
Yep, 6 p.m. in the UK/Portugal. 1 p.m. in the
North America.
US, right?
Yep.
Yep. All right. So, Steven, you go first.
3-1 Porto.
All right. Confident bunch. Bruno.
0-1 Porto.
Patrick.
Maritimo 1, Porto 1.
All right.
We got a draw.
Finally. All right. That's halfway into what we need. Cynthia.
1-1 draw.
All right. Well, I'm gonna do a Cynthia, pull off a Cynthia, and I'm gonna say 1-0 to Maritimo.
Oh, I thought you were gonna be like 7-0 Marítimo.
No, because you were
No,
like,
he's not
they're
Neil.
going to lose
He's
eventually.
Peter.
Yeah, which
He's
means that
not
I'm
Neil, he's
deluded, but
Peter.
I'm not super deluded.
He's not Neil.
All right. Well, so that pretty much wraps up today's podcast. Unless Bruno goes, wait.
We have some kids up here.
Just to
No, you're not gonna get that tonight. You're not gonna get that now.
okay. I'm expecting it. Anyway, so thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Cynthia. And also thank you, Bruno, for coming on today.
You're welcome.
We'll see you
You're
guys
welcome.
next week, where we're going to be reviewing all the games and hopefully say that Benfica is in first place. Because
We're
yeah,
hoping.
that's
Wait.
what we all want. Shut up.
Wait.
Bye.